How does one go from a goody two-shoes little girl to a full-blown alcoholic that needs an intervention and then going into rehab the very next day in order to no longer drink again? I'm so glad you asked. I would love to tell you. So this is my story, and this is how it happened to me. So I grew up with two parents who were not alcoholics. I grew up in what appeared to be, from the outside looking in, a very, very stable, normal, privileged household. We were middle class. We had the things that we wanted. My parents were married. I have a little sister. We had a dog. We had a rabbit. We had a bird. We had the things, right? And so all looked good, but actually all wasn't good on the inside. There was a shit ton of arguing, yelling, slamming doors, silent treatment, manipulation, a lot of chaos. Okay. So by the time I became a teenager, like a 16, 17-year-old teenager, I was always a goody two shoes. I never lied about anything. I was terrified to lie. But I also was carrying a lot of heavy feelings on the inside that I couldn't seem to get out. And so the first time I went to a party and drank alcohol, I felt like I finally found the thing that I had been searching for to make me feel better. And even though it wasn't like I became a full-blown addict that night, I just knew that I absolutely loved the relief that alcohol provided me and made me feel like a completely different person. It gave me confidence. It made me feel funnier. It made me feel prettier, smarter. It made me feel like a cool girl. And I'd never been the cool girl. I was the goody two-shoes girl. And so I just felt like alcohol not only made me into this version of myself that I wanted to be, but it also took away all my worries and all my anxiety. So it was like two birds, one stone. So then I went to college, and I was very dedicated to my studies, but I also liked to party. But I only partied on the weekends. I did not party during the week. I got good grades, and I graduated, even though I would get super wasted on the weekends. But that was okay, because I surrounded myself with other people who drank the way that I did. So I didn't see anything wrong with what I was doing. And I'm of the generation that partied all the time. I know this new generation doesn't do it as much, at least with the drinking, but we did. We were the type that would stay out until the bars closed at 2 a.m. and then roll into class on Mondays at 8 a.m. And then I carried that through to my first job right out of college, first professional job. Again, I was around a lot of people around my age who liked to drink, who liked to party, and we would shut down the bars and then we would roll into work. And we made it work. It was so completely normalized. And at this time, I was not feeling like I physically needed alcohol. I was still just enjoying the effects of alcohol. But I was also still carrying around a lot of stuff, because in between those times, there was some traumatic stuff going on for me that I was not talking to anybody about. No one, not a single soul. I wouldn't even talk to myself about it because I didn't know how. And so I would push a lot of these traumatic things that happened way down deep, and the alcohol allowed me to keep doing that. So yes, I was having fun, but like underneath it all, it was the alcohol was already acting as this crutch, as this solution to the pain and sadness and anger and resentment and a lot of stuff that was in there. So then I met my soon-to-be husband. He seemed to like to drink the way that I did, and so we were having so much fun going to the bars and doing these things, and it was just a great time. And then we found out we were pregnant, and so we quickly got married, and life got real fast. I had to get a brand new job because we had just moved to a new area. I had no support. But I was able to stay sober during the pregnancy. But the entire time I was pregnant, I was very excited to get back to drinking. I didn't crave it, but I was like, I missed it. Like how you miss a friend who moves away and you're so excited to see them when you get to go visit them in 9 months. That's how I was. So as soon as I had the baby, we came home and we had a special bottle of champagne to celebrate being new parents. And I cracked that shit open and away I went. And very, very quickly, my drinking then became all about coping with being a new mom, coping with how incredibly difficult and isolating it was for me, coping with having a new job, coping with having no friends around, no support, no family. and coping with the fact that me and my husband, my brand new husband, were still kind of getting to know each other. And so now I was drinking pretty much nightly, but I wasn't necessarily getting wasted every night, but I was getting buzzed because it made me feel better. I turned at this point from like mixed drinks or cocktails, because that's what I would have at the bars, or beer, to wine at home. That was a lot easier to drink, I guess, as a new mom. I mean, there's a reason that there's like mommy wine culture, and I was completely 100% leaning into that. So as time progressed, our lives just kind of kept changing and changing. We went through lots and lots of different moves, lots of job changes. Our son was growing up. He was in daycare, full-time daycare, so dropping him off, picking him up, going to work. I mean, it was just chaos, chaos, chaos. And so throughout it all was my best buddy, booze. And the problem started to become that my husband was noticing that I was drinking more and more. And he started to ask me, call me out on what was going on. And as soon as he started doing that, I started to feel ashamed. And as soon as I started to feel ashamed about my drinking, I started to hide it. I wanted to keep it a secret. I didn't want anybody questioning my drinking, because my drinking had become that one thing that I could control in my life. The one thing that was mine to control, and it made me feel better. And I knew that for a fact. And nothing made me feel as good as a drink did, or as 10 drinks did. So I started trying to hide my drinking. But at the same time, everyone knew that Lauren liked to drink. All my friends, all my family, clearly my husband, everyone knew. So then I pivoted and I started to hide in plain sight. So instead of trying to pretend that I didn't drink, or start like pretending that I wasn't drinking, I would do things like pour my husband a drink and pour myself a drink, but my drink would be much, much stronger. Or I would start hiding glasses of vodka in the back of the refrigerator that my husband didn't notice, and I could go and take sips of that while I was drinking the decoy drink that I had made, and he had a drink. And so I would start to get all these tactics going. Meanwhile, at the same time, I was going from having a dependence on alcohol. I depended on it for social situations. I depended on it to make my anxiety at the end of the day go away. I depended on it to be able to fall asleep at night. I depended on it to literally make me feel better no matter how I felt. If I wanted to feel like, if I had a great day, then I wanted to enhance that. If I had a shitty day, well, then I wanted it to feel better because I was drinking. Like, I could find an excuse to drink no matter what it was. There was always an excuse. As I kept doing that, my tolerance was increasing. I needed more to be able to feel better, right? Because that's how alcohol works. You build up a tolerance. And at the same time, if you're drinking regularly, you're no longer producing the normal amount of dopamine. And to top all of this off, I was diagnosed as a child with ADD. And if you know anything about ADD or ADHD, people who have been diagnosed with that produce less dopamine than people who don't have it. So I already started out with less dopamine, which is probably one of the many reasons why alcohol was attractive to me, because it was giving me the dopamine that I wasn't producing. But now I was having to drink in order to even produce any dopamine. And if I didn't, then I was a stressed out, anxious mess. My heart would be racing, my hands would be shaking. I couldn't think straight. All I knew was that alcohol was going to make me feel better. And so when people wonder, like, why couldn't you have just said you had a problem? Why didn't you just go talk to somebody? If you look at that entire trajectory, it is filled with so much shame, and it is filled with a complete lack of emotional intelligence. I didn't know how to talk about anything. I was ashamed. I was afraid. I was afraid of myself. I was afraid of what was happening to me. And I did not know how to talk to anyone, because I never saw anyone talk about this. I never saw people in my real life. I never saw people online. I never saw anyone talk about it. All I saw was the depiction of an alcoholic as a piece of shit, garbage, a freak, a monster, disgusting, something that nobody respected or wanted anything to do with. And so I started to believe that about myself. And so I just started isolating and going inward and believing that I was just a giant piece of shit. And so by the time an intervention was held for me, I was drinking around the clock 24/7 just to function. I couldn't, if I wasn't drinking, I couldn't function. And if I was, then I functioned like a normal person. That's how bad it got. And so anyways, I'm at almost 10 minutes. So that is a quick little snapshot of 20 years of a drinking history. And I'm almost 5 years sober today. So don't drink today. Bye.